So I was gonna start out with maybe like a introduction to you, because not everybody, especially because since you're from Minneapolis, right? You live in Minneapolis,
I do.
so
Well,
a lot of people
yeah,
like the Wisconsin fans here probably don't all know you exactly. I mean, they may have heard of, the bands, but so
sure,
we'll introduce you if you want to give yourself a little brief introduction.
sure. My name's Will Maravelis. I'm a tourist. I enjoy long walks on the beach. No, I'm the guitarist for the death metal band Coffin Rites. I'm the guitarist for the gothic metal band Plague of Stars. I also run a recording studio here in the Twin Cities called 1459 Recording Studios. I'm about to open up a rehearsal space here in the Twin Cities, and I volunteer for Zero Budget Records. So I have my hands on a lot of things. So
Okay.
yeah.
So one thing that I've been curious about a lot is the Zero Budget Records. So that's like a label run by the bands on the label, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So and how long ago did that start?
36 years ago, officially.
Okay.
I've been involved since I was 17 years old, and I'm 36 now, so do the math there. So quite a while.
Wow.
It originated in my hometown, which was La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'm a Minneapolis transplant. So it started there at a club that maybe some people have played or have heard of called the Warehouse in La Crosse. It's known for being the longest running all ages music venue in the country. It's been, open for 20 plus years at this point. It's also never served alcohol, which is very, very rare for any club, especially one that's lasted that long.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, and they've had tons and tons of national bands come through there, kind of off dates on tours. And I could talk about some of these, a lot of the bands that have played that place before everybody knew who they were, that all became household names. I got to see as a young little Padawan learner in in Wisconsin as an all ages thing. So the
Okay.
label started there. It's always been run by the bands. It's a it's volunteer run. Nobody is on payroll per se. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's been around a long time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Do you have any idea who exactly started it up or where the idea came from?
Yeah, actually, Steve Harm, who owns the Warehouse in La Crosse, actually started it before opening up the venue.
Okay.
So he's still technically the owner. A couple of us really kind of run the label at this point. He's definitely still involved, but he's definitely the guy who actually owns the joint. If there's ever a situation of somebody has to be the final say on something, then he's technically that guy. But I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, I kind of like organize everything, and the bands kind of make decisions together. We have quarterly meetings and a Facebook page where we discuss things, but it's 100% of the profits go to the bands. It's
Oh,
no, there's no there's no markup or anything like that. It's literally every dollar the band makes goes back to the band. So
cool.
it was kind of a unique model when it started, when I got involved with it, but I think now it's kind of the label of the future, especially with digital downloading and all of that stuff now.
Hmm.
It's a different landscape than it was when I started, for sure, all those years ago. But it's a different world, and I would love to sit here and tout it as like this is where the business is going, but there's enough smart people and enough smart musicians that it may just be going back to independence too. You never really know.
Right.
But as far as the way that we operate is we kind of just say, look, we're all independent bands, and Metal Blade comes knocking on your door tomorrow, then we're going to give you a high five, leave, and go do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way the label works. It's Zero Budget was not just a fancy name. It's literally zero budget. It's run month to month, day to day, and it's run by the people that are involved. So it's
Cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So if a band wanted to be a part of Zero Budget, like what method would they have to take, and what would you suggest for them?
I would suggest, honestly, we are looking to expand. There's a couple of bands from Iowa and a couple of bands from Wisconsin on the label now. And we're expanding into Nebraska and hopefully into the Dakotas as well. We've had bands from the Dakotas before. It's just trying to continue that. If bands are interested, they can contact me directly. I'll shoot the AR email over to him. We have somebody that handles that for the label, and he will listen. He will listen to it. So it's just a matter of just listening to it and figure out if they're a good fit as far as the values, as well as far as if they're kind of in it from the community standpoint versus just the individual standpoint. Obviously everybody, it should be a mutually beneficial relationship. So hopefully the bands, obviously we want the bands. My bands have definitely got a lot out of it, but we want the bands to get something out of it, but we want them to bring something to the label too, so that everybody kind of wins. So that's the goal.
One thing I definitely notice online when I see certain bands is some of them definitely promote themselves and are all in it for the music more than, like money-wise standpoint. So I'm assuming anybody who's out there promoting themselves a lot would definitely make themselves look a little better than anybody who just says, "Hey, come check out our page."
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird world we live in for sure. And hi, Winnie. It's my dog. It's a different world we live in now too. People are figuring out how to really utilize social media and how to utilize technology to be more productive. And I'm sure we'll get into that more. I'm like doing this interview via Skype is a great example of how to utilize technology that didn't exist that long ago.
Right.
And just being smarter about how to market yourself, because again, the rules have changed. It's not the traditional, Atlantic comes and finds you and you get 2 to 3 albums to try and build up a fan base and jump on tour XYZ for like 2.5 years. And then it either happens or it doesn't, or longer. Some bands are, takes 10 years to build. But it's not that model anymore. Not to say that touring isn't important. It certainly is. And it's obviously very, very proven very well right now, like with all the show cancellations that are happening, and how important it is to everybody who likes music, musicians, fans, friends, the community, labels, magazines, Bandcamp doing what they did. It's a big, giant, dysfunctional family, and that's kind of the way that I've always kind of looked at music. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it and kind of be the purveyors of your own destiny at this point. And social media is helping a lot with that. I'll be the first to say that I hate Facebook. I think it's a cesspool, quite frankly.
Especially lately.
It's just misinformation and politics about how you hate this person or how you love this person. It's dividing people. It's not bringing people together, which was the whole point of social interaction, was supposed to be able to bring people together and go, well, let's all utilize the technology and coordinate ideas together. Instead, it's just become a place to just have an opinion and block anybody who disagrees with you. But it's still incredibly necessary. It's a necessary evil, in my opinion, and everybody has their own opinion about what it is. But social media is extremely important. Instagram, I think, is going to be, the next big thing, if you will. But stuff that people don't necessarily look at as social interaction is incredibly important. YouTube, Bandcamp, to a lesser extent, Reverb Nation. All those other sites are all pretty valid. TuneCore. Those things are all social media as far as I'm concerned. It's just banned social media instead of personal social media. So, sorry, I tangent a lot.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I ask just about anybody is like, what's your origins of getting into music in general and metal specifically? Like how far back did you become a musician, and how did you start out?
So I started playing guitar pretty seriously when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
And I picked up drums later. I picked up drums when I was 19, I think, 19 or 20. But I've always been known, I guess, for being a guitar player in a band. Before I got into the recording world, I've actually done a lot more recording. As a drummer, that's actually how I started in recording, but that's another story. But I remember pretty distinctly the moment I wanted to play guitar, and being a child of the '90s, there was no shortage of guitar rock at the time. It was the grunge stuff was all happening. You had a ton of guitar heroes out there still playing. Van Halen is, I mean, they're still relevant, but, watching Eddie Van Halen play and go, holy crap. But I remember watching Austin City Limits on PBS, and I want to say I was like 9 at the time, and I just changed a channel, and there was this dude in this goofy ass hat and a leather vest playing a Stratocaster that was beat to shit, and that was good old Stevie Ray Vaughan. And just watching that man just shred a guitar just made me go, I want to do that. And I was really interested in what I considered heavy music at the time. Was the grunge stuff, the Alice in Chains, the Soundgardens, Pearl Jam, to a lesser extent Nirvana for me personally. And I was getting into all the Bay Area thrash stuff at that time. So Metallica and Megadeth and Exodus and Testament, and even at that young age, I was really into that. And I was traveling with my dad once, and he introduced me to Black Sabbath on a cassette tape on the way home from Chicago one day, and that just kind of said, I just want to play guitar, and I want to play heavy music. And little by little, I got into heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. I didn't just wake up one morning and go, yeah, I'm really, really into Devourment now. It took a little while. It took a little while to get to that. But it was definitely Stevie Ray Vaughan who got me interested in the instrument. And then it was the Bay Area thrash stuff and grunge that kind of taught me how to play guitar. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now you're in Plague of Stars and Coffin Rites, which used to be Coffin Rat.
Correct.
So are both bands are both really active right now, or is there one that's more so than the other?
They're both as really active as we can be given the current situation. I think between the two bands, we've had 11 shows canceled. Wow. It's been a lot. I would say as a general statement, Coffin Rites is more of the road dog type band. We're more the band that, we'll go play Wisconsin regularly. We played Madison, Milwaukee, and the area, 5-6 times now. And, being a band for barely 3 years, that's a lot. But, we've gone down to Kansas, and, we've done the Dakotas, and booking shows in Chicago, and booking shows all over Wisconsin and all over Minnesota. Kind of sticking to that region, if you will, but, we'll get on the road and go play anywhere that anybody will let us. If it makes sense. We're supposed to play in Denver in May, and I think that show's going to get moved out to September, so I'm happy that's not getting canceled. But we're going to do a little 4-day run out to Denver. So it's hopefully that happens in September, like we're talking about right now. And that'll be a really good run. Plague of Stars is more of a, for lack of a better way to put it, more of an event type band. We're not necessarily against going on the road. It has nothing to do with that. We'd actually like to play more often than we do, but most of the shows that we end up doing end up being with national acts on festivals, that kind of thing. It's just the reality when 3 of the members in that band have children. It's not as easy to go out and do it. But we do stay busy and we do stay relevant. The funny thing is, because we only play events, we're actually more financially viable. That and we have a female lead singer. So let's face it, that's not unique anymore, but it's still different. So that turns some people off and turns some people on, whatever way you want to look at it. But it's definitely a different market for sure. but it's both are very active. Coffin Rites is writing a new album right now. We hope to be recording in May, maybe June. Plague of Stars recorded a new album and released a new album rather in June of last year.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still pretty active. I think the cadence for each band is 2.5 years for a new record, and that's kind of the goal, I suppose. And we do some singles here and there just to keep people interested. Do a cover song here and there, just because owning a recording studio, it's a little bit easier to do that. But
Sure.
but we do that too. Plague of Stars just picked a song to do, and I'll probably start learning that this week because it's gonna be a guitar heavy tune. So.
So you mentioned about with playing with national acts. Like, what national act was kind of like your one that you cherish the most? Like somebody you played with that you were really into, and that met possibly.
I've been super lucky to right band, right time, right situation. There's a lot of really good bands in the Twin Cities, and I don't think that my band is unique at all in that respect, especially in like the really heavy stuff. There's a lot of really good death metal and thrash metal and black metal in this area for sure. And in Wisconsin, I mean, Macabre is phenomenal too, and there's tons of great bands all over the Midwest that aren't necessarily household names, but we all look to because we're familiar with them being in our backyard. But man, I think there's been quite a few. I think the biggest kind of, I guess, starstruck moment for me was when we played with Deicide, and this was my former band. But we played with Deicide, and the reason why that was kind of a big deal for me is just because they were the first like death metal band that I really, really got into. In the actual death metal vein. Like Carcass is a death metal band for sure, but like the Florida stuff, the Super Brutals, the Cannibal Corpses of the world, Death, that kind of thing. But I got really, really into Deicide at a young age, and I've been a fan of the band for a long time. They've had member changes, of course, but that particular tour was Jack Owen was still in the band, who I was also a huge fan of from the Cannibal Corpse days when he was Cannibal Corpse. So not only was I getting to play with Deicide, who I love, I was also getting to play with Jack Owen, who I also loved. So that was pretty cool. And I actually sat down and had several beers with Jack, and he's just a wonderful guy. And people talk about Glenn being kind of being difficult, for, lack of a better way to put it. Glenn was super nice to us. And it was really funny when he walked in. He's not that tall. I'm 5'11" and I dwarf the guy, he's 5'7", 5'8" maybe. And he just walks in and he comes in and he comes right up to me, and, I'm sitting with Jack, and he goes, "Hey, I'm Glenn. Nice to meet you." Extends his hand, and I say, "Hey, I'm Will. Good to meet you." And he goes, "You the opening band tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, one of them." He goes, "What kind of music do you play?" And he goes, "And we're like death metal." And he goes, "Oh, thank fucking God. I'm so sick of playing. And he goes, "I'm so sick of playing with new metal bands on this tour," because it just was that time, So it was just super funny. But yeah, he was great. He was really pleasant and really friendly, and it kind of took away some of the mystique of the growing up being a fan of the band and just realizing that musicians are just people too. It's not anything different. But that was a really cool moment. That was a really cool show for me personally. But there's been a lot of great shows over the years. It's like thinking about picking one. That's really the first one that came to mind. So
thinking back, all the shows, stuff, what kind of makes me think of the question that I have asked somewhat about what you feel would be, what's successes to you? Like, how do you, if you're in a band, and what makes it worth it to you, and what makes you feel like you've been successful?
I actually talk about this a lot with the label. It's kind of one of the things that I try and I try and push with other musicians, especially I guess because I'm a little bit of an elder statesman, I guess, in this music scene over here in Minneapolis at this point, which feels kind of silly to say because I'm in my mid-30s, but still, I've been doing it, a long time. I've been in serious bands since I was 12, so that was always my goal with guitar. Was going on pick up guitar. It wasn't to just play in my living room. It was to go be in a band and go make noise and with the idiots in my high school. And that just kind of continued.
Just to interrupt real quick, what was the name of your very first band?
I think no, there was one before it. I don't remember the name of that band, to be honest with you. I remember the name of the cassette that we recorded was called Epiglottis, but I don't remember the name of the band. It was just with some garbage can like rock and roll band that I started when I was like 11 with some friends of mine. The first one that I actually that actually was serious, if you will, and serious. It was I was 13, and that was a band called Failure 13. Okay. Yeah, we did like a couple of records and everything like that, through high school and everything. But yeah, we suck. If you can find it, go listen to it. It's pretty terrible. But I'm not embarrassed of it at all because it was like that was part of the growth, man. It was awesome, and I have a lot of fond memories from those times. I also have a lot of not great memories from those times because I started drinking and started doing a bunch of drugs and shit. But that's a whole other conversation.
So, I already forgot about where exactly you were before I cut you off about the success question.
Yeah.
I know you're going on, but you'd mentioned about your first band, and I'm like, oh wait, I was kind of curious of like what people name their first band, stuff like that, because sometimes it's usually something totally ridiculous.
Yeah, like the name of the band who wrote the Epiglottis, cassette was like, it was so ridiculous that I don't remember it. That's how bad it was. But the success of the success aspect for me, and what I always kind of talk about with the label bands, and what I absolutely love to share with people is, as a musician, if you can break even, you won. You really won, and that's kind of what I view success as. Is if the band pays for itself, the band won, okay. and that's success. It's not about lasting longer than this band, or selling more records than this band, or having more digital streams than this band. I don't really care about any of that stuff personally. To me, it's if I can break even as a musician, I fucking won. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. Both of my current bands are rarely reaching into our own pockets. We might grab $100, $200 here and there to make some new T-shirts, but by the time we come around to do a new album, we bank what we can from doing shows, and from selling the merch that we do have, and basically just put that towards the next record, the next thing. And Coffin Rites has been self-sufficient for the better part of a year at this point. We haven't reached into our pockets at all, even with the name change, which was a big deal for us. But that was pretty incredible to be able to do that, and not. I mean, yeah, we stuck $3,000 in to start the band, but we paid ourselves back, and we're able to bank enough money to just keep it going. And Plague is pretty much the same way. It's the nice thing about doing those festival shows. You're not going to do like $60 in merch. You're going to do $200, $300 in merch, especially if you're playing with national acts. It's and if you're good, that helps. And people keep buying our shit, so I guess that means we're at least okay. So there's that. So, but yeah, so success is break even. that's the
it works. Yeah, I mean, you can do what you like without having to go broke.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of bands don't have that luxury. A lot of bands just continue to just stuff money into it because they like it. And I mean, yeah, I don't expect anybody to ever pay for my guitars or anything like that. It's not my band's job to pay for my guitars. It's my job to pay for that. But as far as the band goes, it's the band business breaking even. You won for sure. So.
Okay. I remember when I was doing a little bit of research for you and stuff like that, I saw a band name called Insect Death.
Yes. Yes.
And it looked like you were the only member. Is that like a project you had going on?
Yeah, it's a solo project. And I've actually decided with this whole quarantine situation, I'm going to finally sit down and write album number 2. But yes, I played everything on that record. I'm a guitar player. I'm a drummer as well. I've been playing drums for many years. I can fake my way as a bass player, and I'm used to grunting and making noises in both my bands with vocals anyway. So it kind of makes sense. Insect Death was kind of truly started out of boredom with music. My old band at the time, before Coffin Rites and when Plague of Stars was kind of on a little bit of a hiatus, I wasn't really doing anything personally musically. I hadn't released an album for, I think at that point, like 2.5 years, which had felt like an eternity for me. With I write songs all the time. Most of them suck, but it just was the idea of just getting something down and just doing it, and just enjoying myself. And I love grindcore. Napalm Death, which is a huge bummer. We were supposed to play with, well, I shouldn't say we're supposed to. There's a tour scheduled for Napalm Death in April that I'm not super convinced is going to happen. But Coffin Rites is supposed to open that tour if it does happen. So that would be like another huge moment for me, just because Napalm Death is easily one of my favorite bands of all time. But I love all the other grindcore stuff too, like, good old Brutal Truth and Insect Warfare, Pig Destroyer, The Berserker, bands like that, just grindy, noisy bands, Anti-Gamma, just a ton of different great bands out there. And so Insect Death was literally just kind of a musical dump for me, where I just decided I was going to write a grindcore album and just do it. And again, when you own a recording studio, it makes things a little bit easier to be able to make those kind of off-the-cuff decisions. But so I just decided to just do it. And I had a month off, or like a month between a bunch of projects. I don't remember what the specific circumstances were, but I just said, cool, I'm just going to write a bunch of songs and go record them. And here we go. And I made 100 copies of it and sold out of them really quick, which was pretty shocking. But I don't push the band a whole lot, because it's not really a band. It's just my solo egotistical project. It's not really even that creative of a name, because if you know the origins of the name, which I'll actually tell you, and if you look at the logo, it's really obvious, is I took my 2 favorite grindcore bands, which was Napalm Death and Insect Warfare, and put the band names together and said, ooh, Insect Death. Here we go. Even the logo is like Insect Warfare for the insect word, and then death is the Napalm Death, like print. Even the logo is that. So it's not hiding the fact that it's an homage to just garbage can grindcore that I just love. So it's but yeah, I'm gonna write album number 2 here, just because at this point I need to kind of keep myself sane, and I figure that'll be a good project to keep myself entertained for a little while. So
Right.
I've been putting it off for about 6 months, because I thought last year, about midway through last year, I'm like, I should do another one of those. That was kind of a fun project, and kind of and people liked it. People occasionally around here still ask if we're ever going to actually ever do a live show. And I said, well, yeah, I think we will for the next record. I've got a couple of guys that are going to, do the show with me, and it'll basically be a record release show, and that'll be it. It'll be the one show that happens that year. If I do another one, maybe we do the same thing, but it won't be an active band. I don't think. It's just more for fun for me. So
is Insect Death, is that available for streaming online anywhere? I mean, if I wanted to check it out, can I find it?
Yeah, it's on Bandcamp. You can get it on Bandcamp for sure. And a bunch of people have thrown it on YouTube, so it's there for streaming too, which is pretty crazy. For a project that I didn't push at all, it's actually done pretty well. It was literally just a excuse to have fun. That was it.
Right.
So
Okay, well, I'll definitely go check that out, and definitely love the grindcore. Especially, seems like the one-man projects just says a lot about a musician if you can look at what they've all put into their own music, when they're.
yeah, it was kind of just a fun experiment, and it turned out pretty good. I wrote 14 songs for the record, and 12 of them I actually recorded. So, I mean, yeah, it's barely. I don't even think it's barely 20 minutes. I think it's still under 20 minutes, the whole thing. But I'm like going this record. I think I'm gonna try and write like 20, 25 songs and record like 18 to 19 of them. Would be kind of my lofty goal, and maybe make it to 25 minutes. We'll see. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's I think on Bandcamp, I actually should go check. I think it's pay what you want. I mean, if it's not, I really should change it. But again, when I put the record out, I just put it out on Bandcamp and said cool, and that was about as far as I pushed it. So yeah, so good on you for doing some research, because that's just a fun project. Yeah,
It happens once in a while. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that one. So I think I'll probably wrap this up a little bit. So once again, I'll just kind of touch base again on the Zero Budget Records.
sure.
So if somebody wants to get involved in that somehow, they just send you an email.
Yeah, they can.
Facebook or whatever, and so that way they can get submitted to be a part of Zero Budget.
Yeah, they can send me an email. Anybody who's involved with the label too. If you have a friend who's in another band, or an acquaintance in another band, by all means, you can filter through them as well. Our new website should launch soon, so that'll be a lot better than our current situation. Because right now, I just have it going to our Big Cartel store just to kind of keep the domain active while we're redoing the website. But there'll be a place to submit music through that, and that will be zerobudgetrecords.com as well, all spelled out one word. You can also email directly, zerobudgetrecords@gmail.com. I pay attention to that email, as well as a couple other people. So basically, it's just if you want to get involved and want to be part of the community, by all means, I welcome that. I appreciate that. I would like to expand it, because the network is the network of every band can be a lot better if you actually have a larger network. Shocking. And I think a lot of bands need to take advantage of traveling. It's, when they can, when it happens again, which it will. Bands really need to take advantage of traveling and not just play their hometown. I know way too many bands that play Minneapolis way too often, and I flat out, I'll keep their names out of it to be professional, but I have said to them personally, so I'm not saying anything to you that I haven't said to them, is they're going, well, why won't you book with our band? And I'm going, you played in town a week and a half ago. You're murdering your draw. So if you want to play more, by all means play more, but drive an hour out of town, drive 45 minutes out of town, drive 2.5 hours out of town, go to Denver, play somewhere on the way there. If you were coming from, Milwaukee, you could go, well, getting to Chicago's real easy, getting to Madison's real easy, getting to Green Bay is not tough, getting to La Crosse is not tough, getting to Menominee is not tough, getting to the Twin Cities is not tough, Duluth is not that far. You just kind of got to think about, if you're find a radius you're comfortable with driving. If it's a 5-6 hour radius in any direction, you got a lot of places to play. And you could say that about Minneapolis. You could say that about, Chicago. You could say that about Omaha, whatever it may be. So just get out and travel, have some fun, hang out with your friends, and go make some memories. You'll see the back of your van, and you'll see a lot of rest stops. So, I mean, it's not the see the world aspect that everybody thinks it is. It really isn't. But it is fun to go meet people and have a good time and experience different venues and different situations. And it'll make you a better band. You'll go play a show to like 5 people who have no idea who you are, and you got something to prove. It's a bigger deal than playing in front of, 60, 70 people who love your band in your hometown. So it'll make you a better band too. And if you're smart about it, you can be really financially viable. You'll sell more merch if you go play more places too. So that helps. So,
cool. Well, thanks so much for testing out the whole Skype interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to doing a lot more for sure. And So yeah, I can get this. This will get posted up, and I'll make sure I post some links to the bands and Zero Budget Records, and maybe your
Great.
email address where they can contact you for if they want to get something submitted. And yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
thanks
been
for taking
good.
the time. I
Went
appreciate
rather
it.
well. All
Yeah.
right.
Awesome.
So.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.